From reducing training costs by millions of dollars to increasing safety proficiency checks by 5,000%, companies are realizing virtual reality isn't just cool technology. It's an absolute game changer when it comes to training employees. At ArborXR, we've helped industry leaders, including Delta Airlines, deploy and manage VR training at scale. And what we've seen is nothing short of remarkable. So in this video, I'll break down exactly how airlines are using virtual reality to transform their training, the incredible results they're achieving, and how the technology is making the aviation sector more safer and efficient than ever before. Let me explain why airlines desperately need a better solution for training their employees. First, aviation training is incredibly expensive and time-consuming across all roles. Traditional pilot training is particularly costly. Flight simulators can cost millions of dollars. There aren't enough of them to keep up with demand, and with the ongoing pilot shortage, companies need faster ways to train and retain pilots. Ground operations face similar challenges. Take Delta's de-icing program as an example. They had to fly out trainers and employees to locations where bad weather was expected just to perform proficiency checks. They could only manage about 3 to 4 checks per day and only when weather allowed. Plus, de-icing fluid can cost upwards of $500, making every single training session extremely costly. Second, training on live equipment can create massive operational headaches. Airlines can't afford to have airplanes sitting idle when they should be making money in the air. Kevin Markham, Delta's AR/VR manager, explained it perfectly. If it's not in the sky, it's not making us money. So we need to turn these airplanes around very, very quickly. Cabin crew training faces similar challenges when trying to practice emergency procedures on actual aircrafts. Airlines like Emirates needs to train over 23,000 cabin crew members on safety protocols, but using real aircraft for emergency training creates scheduling conflicts and safety risks. Lufthansa Technik faced a similar issue as well. They needed to find a way to provide technical training without disrupting maintenance operations or risking damage to costly aircraft systems. Third, traditional training often lacks attention and engagement from users. Employees sit through classroom lectures, read manuals, and try to remember procedures they might not use for months. The result, critical safety information doesn't stick. And finally, dangerous scenarios are nearly impossible to practice safely. You can't simulate engine failures, emergency evacuations, or equipment malfunctions without significant risk and cost. Virtual reality addresses every single one of these challenges, and here's how. First, VR dramatically reduces costs while increasing training capacity across multiple aviation roles. For pilot training, companies like Loft Dynamics have achieved FAA and EASA approval for VR flight simulations that cost a fraction of traditional simulators while providing the same training value. Alaska Airlines is now developing Boeing 737 VR simulators to make pilot training more accessible and affordable. Delta's de-icing VR program is another perfect example. They increased proficiency checks from 3 per day to over 150, almost a 5,000% increase. They now conduct over 2,600 proficiency checks per session while saving millions in operational costs related to fluid usage and travel expenses. That's one of the reasons why airlines have invested large amounts of money into virtual reality, like Qantas Airways, which recently announced a $40 million investment in training modernization that explicitly includes VR as part of their flight training. Second, VR eliminates the need to take equipment offline for training across all aviation departments. Emirates is using their Mira platform to train 23,000 cabin crew members on safety and emergency procedures. They can practice aircraft door operations and mid-flight firefighting on realistic 3D simulations of A380s, 777s, and A350s without using actual aircraft. Lufthansa Technik now uses VR for virtual aircraft walkthroughs in their technical training programs, allowing maintenance crews to learn complex procedures without taking an actual aircraft out of service. Meanwhile, maintenance training programs use VR for mobile elevating work platform operations and virtual inspection procedures, ensuring safety during high-risk maintenance tasks. Delta uses virtual reality training for all new ramp hires, where employees learn proper wing walking procedures, aircraft marshaling, and safety protocols around a virtual aircraft. Similarly, American Airlines has implemented VR for cabin crew familiarization, with trainees completing tasks faster and rating the experience much higher than traditional training. And here's where it gets interesting. Delta had a 40-year veteran employee who had been stepping over an air hose for 4 decades, completely ignoring safety protocols he'd heard 1,000 times. But when he went through VR training and stepped over the hose, a safety warning popped up on a screen saying there's a safety hazard. It finally clicked. He reported weeks later that he hadn't stepped over an air hose since that day and was now actively teaching other agents to avoid it as well. Third, VR enables safe practice of dangerous scenarios. Pilots can now practice engine failures and emergency procedures in VR environments before ever stepping onto a real aircraft. Cabin crews can practice emergency evacuations and firefighting through dangerous repair scenarios without risk to expensive equipment or personnel. In the VR world, if you blast the window of the cockpit kit with de-icing fluid, it tells you you failed and allows you to reset and try again. However, in the real world, that could put an airplane out of service for 3 to 4 days, costing the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, what makes these VR programs so successful isn't just the immersive environment. It's the entire technology ecosystem behind it. Airlines need robust device management systems to deploy and maintain VR headsets because their VR programs often involve hundreds of devices across dozens of locations, managed by employees who aren't technology experts. And traditional IT management tools won't work for VR because they weren't designed for headsets and complex virtual reality applications. That's why companies like Delta Airlines, Qantas Airways, American Airlines, and many other aviation companies have partnered with ArborXR to manage their VR deployment. ArborXR enables airlines to track device usage and performance across all locations, remotely install and update training content, troubleshoot issues without being physically present, control the user experience to keep employees focused on training, and generate detailed analytics on training effectiveness. If you're ready to explore how virtual reality can transform training at your organization, click the first link in the description to get started with ArborXR. And if you want to learn the exact steps on how to implement VR at your company, then watch this video next. Thanks for watching.